She wept not for love, but for the humiliation of having believed it. Somewhere in that moment, between the collapse of her fairy tale and the brutal awakening to reality, she glimpsed what Arthur Schopenhauer knew with chilling certainty. Romantic love is not a gift from the heavens, but a trap set by biology. A magnificent deception, orchestrated by forces that care nothing for our happiness and everything for our reproduction. The woman in the coffee shop yesterday was explaining her breakup to a friend, her voice trembling with that particular mixture of rage and bewilderment that comes when illusion meets reality. She kept saying she couldn't understand how someone who claimed to love her could simply walk away. But Schopenhauer would have understood perfectly. The will had accomplished its purpose. The biological imperative had run its course. What she mistook for eternal connection was merely nature's temporary employment of her consciousness for its own ruthless ends. We live in a culture that has elevated romantic love to the status of religion. Every song, every movie, every whispered promise between lovers carries the same intoxicating message: that two souls can merge into one, that completion lies in another's arms, that love conquers all. But Schopenhauer, the philosopher who dared to look beneath the veil of our most cherished illusions, saw something far more disturbing. He saw the blind will to life using us as marionettes in its relentless drive toward reproduction. What we call falling in love, Schopenhauer argued, is nothing more than the species selecting its next generation through us. Every flutter of the heart, every sleepless night of longing, every moment of breathless anticipation serves a purpose that has nothing to do with our individual happiness and everything to do with creating offspring with the highest chance of survival. The prettier the lie of love, the more effective the biological algorithm running beneath it. Think about the absurdity of it all. You see someone across a crowded room and feel that inexplicable pull, that sense of destiny, that conviction that this person is somehow meant for you. But Schopenhauer would ask, who is really doing the choosing here? Your conscious mind believes it's making a decision, but in reality, you've been selected by forces far older than reason, far more powerful than choice. That face you cannot forget, those features that haunt your dreams, they represent nothing more than your genes, recognizing their ideal complement for reproduction. The cruelest part of this deception is how it feels from the inside. The more irrational the passion, the more convinced we become of its spiritual significance. The sleepless nights, the obsessive thoughts, the physical ache of separation, all of this suffering we interpret as evidence of love's profound meaning. But Schopenhauer saw it differently. The pain is not a bug in the system, it's a feature. The torment ensures we cannot escape the biological imperative until its work is done. This is why lovers often describe feeling possessed, as if seized by a madness beyond their control. Because they are. The will to life has temporarily commandeered their consciousness, flooding their system with chemicals that make rational thought nearly impossible. Modern neuroscience confirms what Schopenhauer intuited. The brain activity during early romantic love mirrors cocaine addiction. We are literally intoxicated by our own biology, high on the very chemicals that ensure we'll pursue reproduction regardless of the cost to our individual well-being. Consider how perfectly designed this system is. That flutter of attraction when you see someone with symmetrical features, that's your genes recognizing markers of health and fertility. The way certain voices make your pulse quicken, that's hormonal compatibility assessment happening below the threshold of consciousness. The inexplicable draw to someone whose personality complements yours in specific ways. That's behavioral genetics, seeking its ideal reproductive partner. None of this has anything to do with soul connection or destiny. It's pure biological mathematics. The most damning evidence of love's true nature lies in what happens when its purpose has been served. How many passionate love affairs cool into indifferent cohabitation once children are born? How many couples who once couldn't bear to be apart find themselves sitting in silent restaurants, scrolling through their phones, wondering where the magic went? The magic didn't disappear. It was never really there. What they experienced was a temporary chemical state designed to last just long enough to ensure reproductive success. Freud later built upon Schopenhauer's insights, revealing another layer of the deception. What we call romantic love, Freud argued, is largely projection, the unconscious attempt to resolve childhood wounds through adult relationships. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with fantasies we've constructed around them. The beloved becomes a blank screen onto which we project our deepest needs, our unresolved traumas, our desperate hope for healing. This is why so many people find themselves repeatedly attracted to the same type of person, often someone who will ultimately hurt them in familiar ways. Anna, 29, and successful, keeps falling for emotionally unavailable men who vanish just when intimacy deepens. In therapy, she discovers the pattern mirrors her relationship with her father, a man who traveled constantly and whose promises to return always came too late. She doesn't love these men. She loves the hope that this time the abandonment will be rewritten, the wound will be healed. Jacques Lacan took this analysis even further, arguing that we never actually want the person we think we love. What we want is what he called the objet pétier, the lost object of desire that can never be recovered because it never existed in the first place. We're chasing the impossible return to a state of perfect union we imagine we once had, probably in the womb or earliest infancy, before we knew we were separate beings. This is why romantic love is so often characterized by idealization and blindness to flaws. We're not seeing the actual person. We're seeing a mirage constructed by our unconscious needs. And when reality inevitably intrudes, when the real person emerges from behind our projections, the disappointment is devastating because it's not just about them. It's about the collapse of our deepest fantasy of connection and completion. Modern technology has weaponized these vulnerabilities in ways Schopenhauer could never have imagined. Dating apps reduce human connection to a marketplace of illusions, where attraction becomes algorithmic and profiles become carefully curated avatars. Studies show that prolonged use of these platforms actually increases depression and anxiety, not because of rejection, but because the commodification of desire erodes meaning itself. We swipe through endless faces, each one triggering the same chemical responses that once guided us toward meaningful connection, until those responses become meaningless noise. The contemporary dating landscape reveals love's true nature with brutal clarity. Why do we pursue those who show little interest, while feeling suffocated by those who offer genuine affection? Because the illusion of love thrives in the gap between desire and fulfillment. The moment love becomes secure, it becomes boring. The passion dissolves because it was never really about the person. It was about the chase, the uncertainty, the chemical high of anticipation. This is what Schopenhauer called the pendulum of human desire, swinging eternally between the pain of wanting and the boredom of having. We suffer when we cannot attain what we desire, and we suffer differently when we do attain it, because attainment kills desire. There is no winning this game, only the illusion that the next person, the next relationship, the next chemical high will finally be different. Nietzsche, building on Schopenhauer's foundation, saw romantic love as a kind of beautiful warfare. a clash of wills that could potentially transform both participants. But he also recognized that most people lack the strength for such transformation. Instead, they seek comfort, safety, the anesthesia of familiar patterns. They want the excitement of passion without its danger, the intensity of connection without its demands for growth. This is why modern relationships so often feel flat and lifeless, despite all our supposed progress in understanding psychology and communication. We've tried to make love safe, predictable, a matter of compatibility algorithms and shared values. But love, in its rawest form, is neither safe nor predictable. It's a force of nature that transforms or destroys, and often both. The tragedy of our current moment is that we know too much and feel too little. We can analyze our attachment styles, understand our triggers, recognize our patterns, but this knowledge often becomes another kind of prison. We become so busy managing our relationships that we forget to actually experience them. We turn lovers into therapy patients, and intimacy into a problem to be solved, rather than a mystery to be lived. Even those who understand the biological and psychological machinery of love remain susceptible to its pull. The analyst who sees the transference still falls. The philosopher who recognizes the trap still aches. Knowledge doesn't liberate us from desire. It just makes our captivity more visible, more humiliating. We become prisoners who can see our own bars. This is perhaps the cruelest aspect of Schopenhauer's revelation. Once you see the machinery of romantic love, you cannot unsee it. Every flutter of attraction becomes suspect. Every declaration of eternal devotion rings hollow. Every moment of romantic bliss carries the shadow of its inevitable dissolution. You begin to see couples not as soulmates, but as unwitting participants in an elaborate biological theater, reading lines they think they've written themselves. Yet we continue to chase the illusion because the alternative seems unbearable. A life without the promise of romantic connection feels like a life drained of meaning, color, hope. We'd rather believe the lie than face the truth that we are fundamentally alone, that no amount of love can bridge the gap between one consciousness and another, that the deepest human connection is still just two separate beings briefly sharing the same space. Schopenhauer offered a radical solution: the denial of the will, the deliberate turning away from desire itself. He believed that only by refusing to participate in the game could we find peace. But most of us are not philosophers or monks. We are mammals with histories and needs, trapped in bodies that demand connection even as our minds recognize its futility. So we compromise. We settle for companionate love, calling it mature when it's really just defeated. We swipe through dating apps, hoping for magic in a medium designed to kill it. We attend couples therapy, trying to resurrect passion that was always going to die. We tell ourselves that expecting too much from love is the problem, when the real problem is expecting anything at all. The modern world has created new forms of romantic suffering that Schopenhauer could never have anticipated. Social media turns every relationship into a performance, every moment of happiness into content to be consumed by others. We curate our love lives for an audience that doesn't care, creating highlight reels that make everyone else's reality feel inadequate by comparison. The gap between the fantasy and the reality grows ever wider. Dating culture has become a grotesque marketplace where human beings market themselves like products, optimizing their profiles for maximum appeal, while hiding anything that might suggest complexity or difficulty. We've turned the mystery of attraction into an algorithm, the poetry of courtship into a transaction. No wonder depression and anxiety rates climb, even as our access to potential partners has never been greater. The pharmaceutical industry has found ways to monetize our romantic suffering, offering chemical solutions to what is fundamentally an existential problem. Antidepressants that numb the pain of heartbreak also numb the capacity for deep feeling. We medicate our way out of romantic obsession, only to find ourselves unable to feel much of anything at all. The cure becomes another kind of death. Therapy culture has convinced us that all relationship problems can be solved through better communication and boundary setting, as if love were a contract that could be negotiated rather than a force of nature that operates beyond our conscious control. We've turned the wild unpredictability of passion into a problem to be managed, the beautiful chaos of attraction into a disorder to be treated. But perhaps there's a strange liberation in Schopenhauer's brutal honesty. Once we stop expecting love to save us, to complete us, to solve our existential problems, we might be able to encounter it more honestly, not as salvation, but as temporary madness, not as destiny, but as biology, not as eternal truth, but as beautiful illusion. Some learn to love with their eyes open, not because they believe the fantasy, but because they can dance with the illusion without drowning in it. They see the trap and step into it anyway, not to be consumed, but to be transformed by the very process of seeing clearly. This is not romantic love in the traditional sense. It's something rarer and more dangerous. Conscious love, tragic love, love that knows its own limits and burns anyway. This kind of love offers no comfort, no guarantee, no promise of happily ever after. It doesn't pretend to bridge the fundamental gap between self and other, doesn't promise to heal childhood wounds or solve existential emptiness. Instead, it offers something more precious and more terrifying, the possibility of encountering another human being without the mediating filter of our desperate needs. But make no mistake, this clarity comes at a cost. Once you see romantic love for what it truly is, you can never again lose yourself completely in its rapture. You become a witness to your own possession, conscious even in the midst of passion that what you're experiencing is temporary, chemical, designed by forces that care nothing for your individual happiness. The final cruelty is this: we chase romantic love to escape our fundamental aloneness, only to discover that every failed relationship makes our isolation more visible, more acute. The more we love, the more we reveal our essential separateness. The more we long for connection, the more we understand that true union is impossible. Love doesn't heal the wound of consciousness,